It's our pleasure at Afreximbank to welcome you to this immense roadshow. And we're glad to have all of you here, the captains of industry, the captains of the creative sector, the captains of the automobile sector, the captains of the Nigerian export sector. We're very grateful and we thank you for being here today. As you are aware, the trade fair, the object of our discussions today, would be held in Durban in South Africa from November 15 to 21 this year. This roadshow would be to provide the business community in Nigeria with information on the Iatf, the Intra-African Trade Fair, its importance, its role in supporting trade in an integrated Africa, increasingly integrated Africa, and particularly in promoting the very noble objectives of the free trade, the African free trade area. The trade fair in Durban this November is also, the purpose of this meeting is also to bring as large as possible the Nigerian private and public sectors to participate fully in the Iatf in Durban. In 2013, the African heads of states adopted Agenda 2063. They described that Agenda 2063 as a blueprint for integrating Africa, for transforming the continent into an integrated, prosperous, peaceful Africa, driven by the citizens of Africa and representing a dynamic force in the international arena. Amongst the very first flagship projects under Agenda 2013 is the establishment of a continental free trade area. And the intention was to stimulate intra-African trade and advance the integration of our continent. That agreement was signed in 2018 and came into force in May 2019. The agreement has created the world's largest free trade area, certainly by the number of participating states involved. It creates a market of around 1.3 billion people with a combined GDP of $3 trillion. And that makes it the 5th largest economy globally in terms of GDP. The agreement probably promises to liberalize trade in Africa, to revolutionize it perhaps, to reshape markets across the region, and to boost manufacturing and services sectors. It's also intended to transform the structure of African trade. And perhaps a little later in the text, we'll talk about the structure of that trade. But for now, it is set to rely significantly on the export of primary commodities. The free trade agreement, one of its key objectives is to reduce Africa's reliance on primary commodities. The agreement also promises to create opportunities for the youth, and in doing so, it will break down all the various barriers that we have in the continent. In the context of COVID-19, that agreement takes an even greater significance, as perhaps in the aftermath of COVID, it would help us in the economic recovery. According to the Secretary General of the Secretariat of the AFCTA, Mr. Wamkele Mene, implementing that agreement might perhaps prove to be one of the most important stimulus. And he stated recently that many countries in Africa do not perhaps have the monetary policies or the fiscal space to provide large bailouts by way of the dollars, the vast trillions of dollars we've seen created in other parts of the world to deal with the recovery. Therefore, for Africa, the stimulus package is the implementation of the AFCTA, increase intra-African trade. That's the purpose of the trade fair in Johannesburg. And that's the purpose for the call we make here today, for as many of us as possible to be in Johannesburg. The growth of our trade has been quite affected in many ways. The market is fragmented. There's lack of economies of scales. There's too much reliance on primary exports. The value chains are weak. Tariffs. The result of all of this has been a very low take-up in intra-African trade, in trade amongst ourselves, which sometimes is said to be 15%, at other times 17%, but it's not yet 20%. And we had as a target in Afreximbank, a target set by one of our leading figures in the continent and worldwide, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He set a target for us at 25% by 2025. We were barely 17%. We think the free trade agreement is that instrument that would help us achieve our target long before President Obasanjo had hoped. And in achieving that in Afrexim, we are guided by our medium-term strategy, which was Impact 2021, Transform Africa. We believe that strategy would enhance the industrialization and export development in Africa. The bank, as a result, has rolled out a number of initiatives which are intended to transform African trade. These include a payment system. It's now become obvious to us that there is need as much as possible to reduce our dependency on foreign currency for our trade. So our intention is to make it possible for Africans to trade with other African countries using their own domestic currencies, so that a seller from Nigeria can sell to Kenya in Naira, receive Naira in Nigeria, and the Kenyan pays in shillings and receives shillings in Kenya. We believe that's possible, and that's the objective of the payment system. That system, to give it trust, will be governed as a whole by the group of African central bank governors. We've also put in place a fund for export development in Africa. That's supposed to invest in small industries, in equity, and in debt. And one part of that scheme is the creation of a transit guarantee for export companies and also export companies' initiatives. The transit guarantee is to enable companies exporting in Africa to move from frontier through frontier, from country to countries, without having to pay on the spot in each country the usual guarantee bonds they issue to move their goods. We believe in Afrexim that we can issue a unique single bond, and that bond would serve for the movement of cargo for goods across borders in the continent. We also believe that there is need to set up export trading companies. We have too many small producers, and to get the economies of scales these producers should be aggregated into large export companies. Ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is the largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. It represents over 17% of the African economy. And in West Africa, over 64% of the GDP. Nigeria's imports from the rest of Africa represents just about 7% of its trade, while the share of its exports to the African region relative to Nigeria's total exports, it's about 20%. Nigeria also accounts for more than 52% of the African population. What that means is that Nigeria stands to benefit the most from increased trade among African countries. You've taken 7%, you export 20% to the rest of the continent. For those reasons, as you would see, Nigeria stands to benefit the most from intra-African trade and from the fair in Durban. We therefore would again make another appeal to Nigeria to attend that trade fair in large numbers to enhance the trade among African states. There are other reasons for Nigeria to support the intra-African trade fair. The event is organized by Afreximbank, an institution so close to Nigeria in so many respects that it is now assimilated with Nigeria itself. And we're not surprised that sometimes Afreximbank is taken for Nexim, the Nigerian Export-Export Bank. Nigeria is a key founding member of the Afreximbank. It has supported Afreximbank institutionally in many ways. The founding president of Afreximbank was no other than Mr. Edodo, who is here seated, and who was also the establishment president of Nexim Bank in Nigeria. The current president of Afreximbank is Nigerian. 2 presidents out of 3, with a board seat which is almost permanent. Nigeria has the bank's largest loan portfolio, and the country is the 2nd largest shareholder of Afrexim, taken together, all shareholders taken together, 2nd only to Egypt. We see these symmetries together, and we think they provide another reason for Nigeria to participate in the trade fair in large numbers. In Nigeria itself, the bank has supported and facilitated trade through its large array of financial instruments. Since inception in '93, Afrexim has approved $26 billion worth to the public and the private sector. We're now implementing several initiatives in Nigeria, and these initiatives are continent-wide. But in Afrexim, the board thought Nigeria would be the place to start with the initial phases. And amongst those initiatives is the creation of a medical center of excellence in Abuja. We're also creating an African Quality Assurance Center, and this would be in Abeokuta, just around Abeokuta in Ogun State. And in Abuja, Afreximbank would be setting up a trade center. The bank has also supported the Nigerian economy in funding many businesses. From January to August of 2021, total loan approvals for Nigeria were at just under $2 billion. And at the end of August of 2021, the exposure to Nigeria was $5.5 billion, which represented 27% of the share of the bank's total loan portfolio. That makes Nigeria Afreximbank's largest exposure. We think for those reasons, Nigeria should be at the trade fair in very large numbers as well. Why else should Nigeria be there in large numbers? The trade fair would be providing a platform for buyers, for sellers, for investors and governments to connect, to meet, to make information available, and above all, to make the businesses work, to conclude businesses. It brings together continental and global players to exhibit their goods and services, to explore businesses and investment opportunities in Africa. The importance of these fairs in the context of our regional trade was recognized as early as in the 1980s with the Lagos Plan of Action. And the Abuja Treaty called for the adoption of an all-African trade fair of the organization, what was then the Organization of African Unity, now the AU. This was thought to be a significant instrument of Africa's trade promotion. The action plan for boosting intra-African trade that was endorsed by the AU Summit in 2012 also highlighted the lack of access to trade information as a key challenge affecting intra-African trade. And subsequently, the African Union tried to organize an all-African trade fair in the past, but this was not successful, as there was no financial institution prepared to provide the backing that was required to organize the trade fair. In 2018, in collaboration with the African Union and the government of Egypt, Afreximbank organized the first intra-African trade fair. It was called the Iatf 2018 to support the implementation of the African Free Trade Area. In acknowledging the support of Afreximbank, the AU credited the AITA of 2018 as being the very first deliverable of the Free Trade Agreement, and this even before the agreement itself had come into force. The government of South Africa, and we think we have the Consul General of South Africa here, Mr. Darky Africa, and the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal and the city of Durban have agreed to host the trade fair for 2021. Durban is KwaZulu-Natal province's largest city and South Africa's second largest city. KwaZulu-Natal is the second largest contributor, around about 16% of South Africa's GDP, out of the 9 provinces of the country. 4 weeks ago, the exhibition center was visited by a group of African Export-Import Bank staff, by the organizing committee, the events managers, to ensure that the arrangements were in place for a successful event. The 2021 event is expected to attract over 1,000 exhibitors, more than 10,000 visitors from 55 African countries and from the world. It would generate more than $40 billion of trade and investment deals. That's an opportunity that Nigeria cannot stand by, cannot miss. To date, 600 exhibitors have signed up. The target was 1,100. This constitutes 55% of the overall intake of the IATF. The Nigerian signed up exhibitors is still low. So therefore, I would ask the business community in Nigeria, the public sector, the private sector, to expedite action to take up exhibition space to ensure that Nigeria is fully represented at the Iatf 2021. The first trade fair was intended, the trade fair that took place in Egypt in 2018, was intended to generate interest in trade fairs in support of intra-African trade. It attracted 2,500 conference delegates and over 1,000 exhibitors from 45 countries. $32 billion worth of trade and transactions were signed. Of this 32 billion, 75% is implemented. Another 10% is in the process, and 5% has received a clear reject. For us, those statistics demonstrate that the trade fairs work if 75% of the business deals that were signed there have been implemented. In 2018, Nigeria participated in the first edition of the trade fair. The government of Nigeria and the country's private sector played a major role in ensuring that the business community here was fully represented. We hope that in Durban, Nigeria will actively participate in the country day. That day would have an extensive program and exhibitions reserved for Nigeria to showcase its rich culture, its trade potential, its investment opportunities. We therefore call upon the government and the private sector associations who would like to call upon you and your association, the Export Promotion Council, Chief Awolowo, the Nigeria Chamber of Commerce, I think the chairperson is also here, would like to call upon you, the export sector, to provide the necessary support by mobilizing businesses, including women in business and small and medium-sized enterprises, to participate and to take advantage of the benefits of Durban, the benefits which the Durban Trade Fair would have to offer. We look forward to seeing all of you in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, from the 15th to the 21st of November, 2021. Thank you for your attention.